Hello, good day, everyone. My name is Gyimah Addae, and today we are here to elaborate or to discuss simple interest and promissory note. And when we talk of simple interest, it complies of a whole lot. So I'll plead that you pay attention, you listen to me attentively, so that we can actually go through simple interest and make sure we are well versed with simple interest. Thank you. So we have an outline here that we are going to look at. And first of all, we will have to look at what simple interest is, the definition of simple interest, methods of computing simple interest, and also computing the due date and promissory notes and discounting. So we begin with simple interest. Simple interest is the amount of money that a lender charges a borrower for credit privileges extended to him or her. So what this is trying to say that I'm an individual. You watching me, you come to me to borrow money. When I give you the money, I add an interest to it. That when you come and pay the actual amount, you add it up to as a result of the additional days that has been added to it. This is what we call simple interest. When an investor, seller, lends money to a borrower, the borrower must pay back the money originally borrowed. So, as we know, when you come to me to take money and you have to pay back, the money you have to pay back is the what? Is the actual money you came to borrow from me. And that money is called the principal. So you go to Kofi, Amma goes to Kofi to borrow money. The money or the actual amount you took from Kofi is what we mean as the principal. And also the fee charged for the use of the money is called the interest. So the fee charged for the use of the money is the interest. Is the interest. This interest is usually quoted as a percentage of the principal. When part of this price or when part of the price is paid at the time of purchase, that part is called down payment. So when Kofi goes to Amma to credit money and she pays some part of the amount before making the whole payment, that payment is called the down payment. Down payment. If the seller or investor charges too much interest or does not extend credit, the buyer or borrower must borrow money from a third party, such as a bank. In such instances, the bank or third party will charge interest between the loan date and the repayment date. This period of time is called the interest period or the term of the loan. The sum of the principal and the interest due is called amount or accumulated value or maturity value. The maturity value or amount or accumulated value is the sum of the principal and the interest due. So as I said, the principal is the actual amount you went to lend, and also the interest is the fee for using the actual amount. And when you sum them up, is the maturity value or accumulated value. The amount of interest is based on three factors. The amount of interest is based on three factors, and the three factors are the principal, the rate of interest, and the time span of the loan. The principal, the rate of interest, and the time span of the loan. The interest is quoted as an annual rate. The interest is quoted as an annual rate. So I'll be giving you formulas here. And you have to take note of these formula. So when computing interest, we have our principal multiplying our rate and multiplying our time. In short, we can make it I equals P times R times T, which is the principal, the rate, and the time. So we have an example here. First example under simple interest. It says find the simple interest on a loan of 1,200 contracted at the rate of 6% for 4 years. What is the maturity value of this loan? So first of all, when you get a question, you state down your apparatus. And it says find the simple interest on a loan of 1,200. And before we started this, I made mention of principal. Principal is the actual amount you go and receive from who? The one lending the money to you. So now, per this question, it says find the simple interest on a loan of 1,200. So 1,200 is our actual amount before the interest adds up. So our principal here is our 1,200. 1,200 cedis. Then contracted at the rate of 6%. So 6%, as usual, you have to change it to decimal, making 0.06 for 4 years. So what is the maturity value of this loan? And the time given is 4 years. That's the duration. Four years. So first of all, this question is asking you to find what? Maturity value. Maturity value. And we know the maturity value formula. Formula is the principal plus interest. Principal plus interest. So you would first have to compute your interest. After getting your interest, you add it up to your principal, which was already provided in the question. So now our interest is principal times rate times time. And we have our principal to be 1,200 Ghana cedis, multiplying our rate, which is 0.06, multiplying our 4 years. So now, when we do this calculation, we are getting 288 Ghana cedis. 288 Ghana cedis. So after getting our interest, we go ahead to find our maturity value. So we add our interest, which is 288, to our 1,200, which is our principal. And we are getting 1,488. 1,488 as our maturity value. As our maturity value. Let's move on to another example. It says compute the interest on a credit purchase of 3,000 Ghana cedis at 5% interest for 8 months. For 8 months. It says compute the interest on a credit purchase of 3,000 at 5% interest for 8 months. For 8 months. So with this question, we are computing our interest. So now let's state our apparatus. It says compute the interest on a credit purchase of 3,000. So here, 3,000 is our principal. 3,000 Ghana cedis is our principal, and our rate is 5%. Our rate here is 5%, and our time value is 8 months. 8 months. So now what do? We would have to find our interest. And as you know, the formula for the interest is principal times rate times time. So now our principal here is 3,000 Ghana cedis. Our rate here is 0.05. So now we have 8 months here. And when computing simple interest is in an annually form. So what you are going to do is that the 8 months given to you, you are going to divide it by 12, which is making 1 year. So you divide it by 12. You divide the 8 months by 12 because 12 months sum up to 1 year, making it the annual 1 year. So what you are getting for your interest is 100 Ghana cedis. 100 Ghana cedis. And that is our second example. We move on to methods of computing simple interest. So, simple interest is usually computed using the exact method or the ordinary method. Simple interest is computed using two methods, which is the exact method and the ordinary method. So the exact method uses the number of days in the year, 365 days and 366 days in a leap year. So 366 days is used in a leap year and 365 days is used in general. The ordinary method assumes that there are 30 days in a month and 360 days in a year. Simple interest under this method is therefore calculated using 360 days. So this is what we are talking about. So an example under the exact interest. Or the exact method. Compute the exact method or compute the simple exact interest on a loan of 900 Ghana cedis at 9% for 120 days. So as I always tell you, you compute your apparatus, you start with your principal, and the principal will always be given to you. The principal here is 900 cedis. The rate is 9%. And the time here is 120 days. The time here is 120 days. So you state your formula as usual. Your P is 900 cedis. Your rate is 0.09. And now the time is 120 days. So the question made it clear that using exact simple interest. So we know that with the exact simple interest, we are dealing with 365 days. So what you do is that you divide the 120 days by 365. You divide it by 365. You divide it by 365, and when you compute this, you are getting 26.6301. 26.6301. So you can decide to leave it in two decimal place, and this is it. So with the exact, you always have to have it in mind that you are using 365 days. We move on to ordinary. So it says compute the ordinary simple interest on a loan of 900 cedis at 9% for 120 days. So we are using the same figures that was given for the exact, but this place we have to know that we are computing for ordinary. So the method will be different. The way we solved for the first one will always be the same way we solve for the ordinary, but some figures will have to change here. So now let's move on. So using the same apparatus, the principal as usual 900 cedis. Then we have our rate, which was also given to be 9%, making 0.09. Then we have our time, given as 120 days. So now we have our I equals P times R times T. And our P here is 900, multiplying our rate, which is 0.09, times the time, which is 120 days. And with the ordinary, instead of with the ordinary, we know that we are using 360 days. With the ordinary, we are using 360 days. But with the exact, we use 365 days. That is what you should know. That is what we should know. So with the ordinary, we are using 360. So you divide the 120 by 360, and you are getting 26.73. 26.73. So there are some statements you would have to give to you. It says, given that the ordinary method using 360 days and the exact method using 365 days, the denominator for the ordinary method is usually bigger, and therefore interest payment under the ordinary method is higher. So therefore, the exact interest is therefore better than the ordinary method. I repeat, given that the ordinary method using 360 days and the exact method uses 365 days, the denominator for the ordinary method is usually bigger, and therefore interest payment under the ordinary method is higher. The exact interest is therefore better than the ordinary method. So we are done with computing the method of simple interest, which is the exact method, and the ordinary method. We move on to calculating due date. The due date of a loan is the day the amount or maturity value of the loan is supposed to be repaid. So when you come to Kofi for a loan, and I give you the loan, and I tell you by the end of April you are to pay the loan, April ending becomes your due date. So if the term of a loan is given in months, the due date of the loan is a corresponding day in the maturity month. So if I tell you you are to pay the loan in April, the corresponding day in April is the day you are paying the loan. There are two conditions worth noting. If the maturity month does not have the required number of days, if the maturity month does not have the required number of days, then the last day of the month serves as the maturity date. So if I don't give you an exact date in April that you are supposed to pay the loan, the last day in that month should be your due date. If the due date of a loan falls on a non-business day, the maturity date in either the last working day before the due date or the next working day with additional interest charged on any additional day. What this means is that when you come to me, let's say for instance today is 10th March, and I ask you to pay the loan in 10th April, then probably 10th April is a working day. Sorry, 10th April is a holiday. You would have to pay before that 10th April, because that 10th April is not a working day, it's a holiday. That is what we are trying to talk about here. Or if not before the 10th April, it should be a working day after the 10th April, and with that, it comes with additional charges. It comes with additional charges and any additional day. So we have examples here. It says a 15-month loan dated February 2nd is due on May 2nd of the following year. A 15-month loan dated February 2nd is due on May 2nd of the following year. A loan dated May 31st and due in 4 months has a maturity date of September 30th. Another example, a 7th-month loan dated December 4th is due on July 3rd or July 5th if July 4th is a holiday. So if July 4th is a holiday, you are to pay the loan before July 4th, which is 3rd July, or after July 4th, which is 5th July. So with these examples I gave, with the first two examples, the assumption is that the due dates fall on working days. The due dates fall on working days. But with the last example, we could see clearly that July 4th is a holiday. So therefore, you are to pay on 3rd July or 5th July after the holiday. So we move on to calculating time between calendar days. Calculating time between calendar days. When interest is charged in days and the method is not stated, we calculate simple interest using either the exact or ordinary interest. When interest is charged in days and the method is not stated, we calculate simple interest using either the exact or ordinary interest. So you can decide to use the exact or ordinary interest when it was not stated clearly. Under the exact interest, 365 days are used. Under the exact interest, 365 days are used. So you divide the number of days by 365 days under the exact. And under the ordinary interest, you divide the number of days by 360 days. So this is what I'm talking about. So under the exact, you divide number of days by 365, and under the ordinary, you divide number of days by 360. There are two ways of calculating number of days between calendar dates. There are two ways of calculating number of days between calendar dates. So one is the exact time. The exact time. So with the exact time, which is count of the actual, is the count of the actual number of days, including all except the first day. And the approximate time, it assumes that each month has 30 days. So with the approximate, it assumes that each month has 30 days. So we move on to the exact time and simple interest. The exact time and simple interest. It says to determine the simple interest using the exact time is calculated first. We do that using the day number in the year as follows. So for example, so it says to determine the simple interest using the exact time is calculated first. We do that using the day number in the year as follows. So here we have December 22nd. We have December 22nd. And with December 22nd, it falls under 356 day, the 356th day, because with the exact it has 365 day, and December 22nd falls under the 356th day. 356th day. We have March here. We have March 17th, and March 17th falls under the 76th day in the year. March 17th falls under the 76th day in the year. December 22nd falls under the 356th day in the year. So when computing the exact time, what you do is that you will then subtract the 76 from the 356 to get your exact time, and it will be given to you. So December 22nd was given to us, and you have to note the day it falls in that year. And we know that December 22nd falls under the 356th day in the year, and March 17th falls under the 76th day in the year. So therefore you subtract the 76 from the 356 to get your exact time, and you are getting 280. You are getting 280 days. You have to note this, because with the first examples we did, the days will be given to you, and you just go ahead to divide them. When using the exact, you divide it by 365, and when using the ordinary, you divide it by 360. But some questions will be given to you where you would have to find the days yourself, and this is how you go about it. So now that we have our exact time, we have our 280 days. So when you get your 280 days, then you divide this by 365 when using the exact simple interest, when the question asks you to use the exact simple interest. And when the question also asks you to use the ordinary simple interest, you go ahead to divide the 280 days by 360. So with the exact simple interest, you divide the number of days by 365, and with the ordinary simple interest, you divide the number of days by 360. And note that this is how to get your exact time, And we also have ways to get our approximate time. So let's move on to get our approximate time. So before we move on to the approximate, we are still on the exact time. So it says where the period extends into the following year. The exact time is calculated as follows. Note that, for example, when you are giving a loan in August and you are asked to pay in March, you should know that the due time is falling in the next year. So this is how you are going to compute it when such situations occur. So you determine exact time between September 8th and July 4th. So for example, you are giving a loan on September 8th and you are asked to pay on July 24th. This is how you are going to do. So determine the exact time between September 8th and July 4th. So you would have to determine the exact time between the September 8th and July 4th when you are asked to. And this is how you are going to go about it. So you would have to find the day number. So September 8th and July 4th. So the date here is July 24th. And you have to know the day under which July 4th falls under in the year. And July 24th falls under 205. So it's the 205 day in the year. It's the 205 day in the year, which is 205 in the year. So July 24th is the 205th day in the year. So as a result of it extending to the next year or the following year, because it says September 8th and July 4th. So the July 4th has crossed the year that the loan was taken. So in this case, since it crossed and July 24th is in the next year, you are going to add 365 because it extended into the next year. It extended into the next year. Please watch me carefully. It extended into the next year. What we are doing is what we call when the due date extend into the next year. When the due date extend into the next year. So when it extends into the next year, after getting the day number, you add 365 for extending into the next year. And when you do that, you get 570. When you do that, you get 570. So now let's look at when the loan was taken. The loan was taken in September 8th. It was taken in September 8th. So now after adding the 365 to the day number of July 24th, as a result of it extending into the next year, what you do is that you come and find the day number of September. The day number of September 8th, where the loan was taken, when the loan was taken. So the loan was taken in September 8th. You come and find is what? Day number. And September 8th day number is 251. It's 251. So what you do is that after getting the day number, which is 251, you come and subtract it from the sum of the 365 days and the day number of July 24th. You subtract it from the sum of the day number of July 24th and 365 for extending into the next year, and you are getting 319. You are getting 319, and 319 is your exact time. It's your exact time. 319 is our exact time. 319 is our exact time. So if the question asks you to compute exact simple interest, you divide this 319 by 365. And if it does for ordinary simple interest too, you divide this 319 by 360. By 360. We move on to approximate time and simple interest. We move on to approximate time and simple interest. So now, with approximate time, it says to determine the simple interest using approximate time, the approximate time is calculated first. The number of days obtained is then divided by 60 days to obtain the ordinary interest, and is also divided by 365 days to get the exact interest. So now we have a question here. The question says determine the ordinary simple interest on a loan of 5,000 contracted on December 20th at 10%, given that the maturity date is March 13th, using the approximate time method. First, we have to determine the approximate number of days in order to get our simple interest, our ordinary simple interest, as the question demands. So you first have to get our date, then the month, then the day. So with this question, our date is December 20th. December 20th. And it's the 12th month. and the day is 20th December, so you write 20 here. Then now we move on to March. March 13th. March 13th. And with March 13th, from the 12th month, which is December, we will have to move on to 13, 14, and 15. So the 13 will be in January. The 14th then will be February. And the 15th will be March. So you write 15 here. Since it's extending to the following year, you write 15 here. And the day it falls is 13th March, so you write 13 here. So now what you do is that you have to find the differences. You would have to find the difference. You'd have to find the difference. So now with the difference in the month, what you do is that you subtract the 12 from the 15. You subtract this 12 from 15, and the difference will be 3. The difference will be 3 months. The difference will be 3 months. And with the days, you will subtract 13 from 20, and you are getting 7. And you are getting 7. So now what you do is that you now convert the 3 months, 7 days to days by multiplying the 3 by 30. So now what you do in order to get the approximate number of days is that with this 3, you multiply it by 30, which represents 30 days. You multiply it by 30. And when you multiply it by 30, the figure you get, you add this day to it. You add this day to it, getting your what? Your approximate number of days. So now let's go ahead and do it. So with this 3, multiply this 3 by 30, and we are getting 90. And when you get the 90, you add the day, the differences of the days to it. And we had 7, so we are getting 97. We are getting 97 as our number of days. As our number of days. So now we getting the 97. We can now go ahead to find our ordinary simple interest. We can now go ahead to find our ordinary simple interest. So you state your formula, which is the P times the R times the T. And the P was given to be 5,000 Ghana cedis, and the rate was given to be 10%, and when you are getting 0.1. And now we've been able to get our approximate number of days to be 97. And the question stated emphatically that using the ordinary simple interest. So using the ordinary simple interest, you divide the 97 by 360. You divide the 97 by 360, and you are getting 134.72. 134.72. In a question where you are asked to calculate the exact simple interest, you therefore divide this 97 by 365 and this is how to get our approximate number of days. The first one we did was the exact time, and this is the approximate time. So we continue with promissory notes and bank discount. Promissory notes and bank discount. So we commence with promissory note. A promissory note is a written promise by a debtor to pay a creditor a stated sum of money on a specified date. A promissory note is a written promise by a debtor to pay a creditor or stated sum of money on a specified date. The debtor making the promise is called the maker. The debtor making the promise is called the maker. The debtor making the promise is called the maker of the note, and the creditor is called the payee of the note. So the debtor is the maker of the note, and the creditor is the payee of the note. The creditor is called the payee of the note. Promissory notes are mostly used when money is borrowed or goods or services are sold on credit. Promissory notes are mostly used when money is borrowed or goods or services are sold on credit. Promissory notes are of two kinds. Promissory notes are of two kinds. The first is interest bearing. The first is interest bearing, and the second is non-interest bearing. The second is non-interest bearing. An interest bearing promissory note is one that the maker has to pay interest at a stated rate. An interest bearing promissory note is one that the maker has to pay interest at a stated rate. An interest bearing promissory note is one that the maker has to pay interest at a stated rate. So we know that the maker of the note is the debtor. And we are saying that the interest bearing promissory note is one that the maker has to pay interest at a stated rate. And now, non-interest bearing promissory note does not attract any interest when it matures. So the non-interest bearing promissory note does not attract any interest when it matures. These are the difference. So there is an example on your screen which it shows is an example or is a replica of a promissory note. Example of a promissory note. So I'll urge you to glance through, and I'm about explaining it. So you take your time, note the key point, the figures in it, the date, the due date in it, and after that I will explain each and everything you see in this note. So as you view the note, listen to what I'm saying or listen to the explanation. So the face value of the note is the amount stated in the note. The face value of the note is the amount stated in the note. So the face value is the 18,700 Ghana cedis you are seeing now on your screens. So the face value of the note is the amount stated in the note, which is the 18,700 Ghana cedis you are seeing. The date of the note, the date of the note. So the date of the note is the date on which the note was made. The date of the note is the date on which the note was made. It is from this date that interest is calculated. So from this day that interest is calculated is the date on the note, the date of the note. And the date of this note you are seeing is November 14th. The date of this note you are seeing is November 14th. The term of the note. We move to the term of the note. The term of the note is the period within which the principal and the interest must be paid. When we talk of the principal is the actual amount borrowed. Yes, the principal is the actual amount borrowed. So the term of the note is the period within which the principal and the interest must be paid. And on this note is 3 months. On this note you are seeing is 3 months. So we move on to the payee. So the payee of the note is the creditor. As said earlier, the payee of the note is the creditor to whom the promise is being made. To whom the promise is being made. And on this promissory note, Amira Samed Muntaka Company is the payee. Amira Samed Muntaka Company is the payee. The maker of the note is the person or company making the promise, as we said earlier on. And on this promissory note you are seeing on your screens, Mansa is the maker. Now we move on to the interest rate of the note. The interest rate stated on the note is 26% exact interest. 26% exact interest is what you are seeing on the promissory note. Then now the maturity date of the note. is the date on which the amount plus interest must be earned. Is the date on which the amount plus interest must be earned. So on this promissory note you are seeing on your screens, February 14th, 2015. February 14th, 2015 is the maturity date. Is the maturity date. So for non-interest bearing note, um value received, that is maturity value, is the same as the face value. So for non-interest bearing note, value received, that is our maturity value, is the same as the face value. For such notes, in most cases, interest is deducted at the time money is borrowed. So for such notes, in most cases, interest is deducted at the time money is borrowed. That is in advance. In advance. An important feature of a promissory note is that it is negotiable. It is negotiable. It is negotiable. You can negotiate. You can negotiate. It is negotiable. Negotiable promissory notes are transferable to other persons, companies, banks, etc. by the endorsement of the payee. Negotiable promissory notes are transferable to other persons, companies, banks, etc. by the endorsement of the payee. We move on to cashing a promissory note. Cashing a promissory note at the bank is termed as discounting a note. Cashing a promissory note at the bank is termed as discounting a note. Discounting a note. So some banks usually collect interest in advance, called bank discount. So the interest collected in advance by banks are called bank discount, which is computed on the maturity value of the note at a specified annual discount rate for the term of the discount in years. The term of discount is the time in years. The term of the discount is the time in years. From the date of discount until the maturity date of the note. So the term of the discount is from the date of the discount until the maturity date of the note. If the time is given in days, the bank's year of 360 days is used. If the time is given in days, the bank's year of 360 days is used. So I'm stating some formulas here when it comes to the bank discount. So when we talk of bank discounts, it follows this principle or these formulas. So this is the formula for bank discount. So in short form, it becomes your D equals SDT, where maturity value stands for S. The small d stands for discount rate, and the term of discount is represented by the letter T. The money received for the discount note called the proceeds note. So the money received for the discount note is called the proceeds. It's called the proceeds, which is represented by small c. So proceeds. Proceeds. So the proceeds is obtained by deducting the bank discount from the maturity value. So the proceeds is obtained by deducting the bank discount from the what maturity value. So maturity value is represented by S, and the bank discount is represented by T. So we'll do some small mathematics here. So S equals what? The D is therefore represented by SDT, because you multiply maturity value by discount rate by term of discount, so your SDT. And you have two variables here at the same time. So what you do is that you factor 1 out, so it becomes your x bracket 1 minus the dt. So when you have to, so now that we have this, what we are going to do is that we are going to divide both sides by the one in the bracket. So it will be this. So this will cancel this out. Now the s is standard alone, so it will be p divided by 1 minus dt. This is what we just solved for. This is what we just solved for. So now, computing maturity value of an undiscounted note. As discussed earlier, the maturity value of a promissory note is the sum of the face, which is the principal. And as I already said, the principal is the exact amount given before the discount is attached, or before you are asked to pay discount. Sorry, before the interest is attached, not the discount, before the interest is attached. So the actual amount borrowed is what we mean by the face value or the principal of the note, and the interest. So as said earlier, the maturity value of a promissory note is the sum of the face value of the note and the interest. So maturity value is principal plus interest. So we have an example here. We are going back to solve an example. So let's see if you are going to recall what we did when in terms of maturity value. In terms of maturity value. So it says compute the maturity value of an interest-bearing promissory note if the face value of the note is 2,000. So now the face value is the same as what? The principal. So in a case where you not see principal, you see face value. So the face value is 2,000. Is 2,000. Interest is 10%. Interest is 10%. Interest is 10% exact per year. So per year, the interest is 10% per year. And the loan period is 60 days, which is the time. The loan period is 60 days. So what we are going to do here is that we are first going to find our what? Interest, the interest amount, because here the interest rate was rather given. So you first find your interest amount, then after finding the interest amount, you move on to find your maturity value. So the interest amount is computed by P times R times T. So the P here is 2,000 multiplied by the interest rate, which is 0.1 or 10%, by the number of days. And the number of days was stated, a loan period is 60 days. The loan period is 60 days. And 60 days, we are going to divide by 365. 365. Why? Because this question, it says interest is 10% exact. Exact. So when it comes to the exact simple interest, we use 365 days. So you divide the number of days by 365. And when you compute, you are getting your interest amount to be 32.88. 32.88. So now we move on to find our maturity value. So the maturity value, you add your interest amount to your um your face value or the principal. So now the principal or face value is 2,000. So we will have to add 32.8 Ghana's 88 88 to the 2,000. And our maturity value here, we take our calculator. So 2,000 plus 32.88, we are getting, and this is the figure we are getting. This is the figure we are getting for our maturity value. So we move on to discounting a promissory note. So what we just did is computing maturity value of an undiscounted note. Computing maturity value of an undiscounted note. That was what we just did. And what we are about doing is discounting a promissory note. So often, when a lender holds a promissory note as security for a loan, the lender may need cash before the maturity date of the note. So when you, the lender, you have the note, probably trouble, so you need money before the maturity date of the note. So one option available to the lender to get cash is to sell or transfer the note to a third party. So you have to sell or transfer the note to a third party if the note is negotiable. If the note is negotiable, and as we said, when it comes to the promissory note, it's negotiable. It's negotiable. So if the lender transfers or sells the note, it means the third party is now assuming the risks of the loan. It means the third party is now assuming the risk of the loan, into whether the loan will be paid or not. The risk that comes along with the promissory note is the third party that is going to assume the risk, which is that the borrower may not repay the money on the maturity date. And this risk, you, the third party, you are going to assume it. Therefore, to acquire the note, the third party will have to earn some interest to compensate for the risks they are bearing. Therefore, to acquire the note, the third party will have to earn some interest to compensate for the risk they are bearing. This means the third party will pay the original lender less money than the maturity value of the note. This means the third party will pay the original lender less money than the maturity value of the note. The note is then described as having been sold or transferred at a discount, and the process is termed as discounting a note. Discounting a note. The note is then described as having been sold or transferred at a discount, and the process is termed as discounting a note. Very understandable and simple to understand. So steps to discount a promissory note. We will go through this step, and after that we solve a nice question, then we are done. So first, compute the interest amount. First, compute the interest amount and the maturity value of the promissory note. 2. Determine the maturity date of the note. 2. Determine the maturity date of the note. Note that these are steps to discount a promissory note. So first of all, you compute your interest amount and the maturity value of the promissory note. Determine the maturity due date of the note. 3. Compute the number of days in the discount period. Compute the number of days in the discount period. The time is the number of days in the discount period divided by 360 or 365 or 366 days in a leap year. 4. Compute the discount amount using the formula A equals maturity value times rate times time. 5. Compute the proceeds by subtracting the discount amount from the maturity value. Compute the proceeds by subtracting the discount amount from the maturity value. So now we have a question here, and we'll solve this question nicely, then we will be done. It says on August 19th, KPH company borrows 75,000. On August 19th, KPH company borrows 75,000 from Mamaga Kikeli Investment Company. On August 19th, KPH company borrows 75,000 from Mamaga Kikeli Investment Company. In return, KPH gives the company a 120-day promissory note at an ordinary simple interest rate of 8%. Compute the due date and the maturity value of the promissory note. Compute the due date and the maturity value of the promissory note. That is the first set, which is the I. Mamaga Kekeli Investment Company could not wait for the loan or could not wait for the note to mature and decided to transfer the note to Lakayana Financial Services. Mamaga Kekeli Investment Company could not wait for the note to mature and decided to transfer the note to Lakayana Financial Services on October 5th at a discount of 12%, at a discount of 12% of the maturity value. Note that we said when transferring there will be a discount because the third party would have to bear the risk whether um, the the lender or the borrower will pay the money or not. So financial services, Lakayana Financial Services on October 5th at a discount of 12% of the maturity value. Determine the discount amount and the proceeds due to Mamaga Investment Company. How much does Lakayana Financial make from the transaction? How much does Lakayana Financial Services make from the transaction? So now we would have to compute our due date. We would have to compute our due date. We would have to compute our due date here. Now, with the due date, when we read out the question, in it says on August 19th, KPH company borrows 75,000 from Mamaga Kekeli Investment Company. In return, KPH gives the company a 120-day promissory note. A 120-day promissory note. So, in order to get the due date, we would have to add um the money was borrowed on August 19th. August 19th. So a time frame of 120-day promissory note was given. 120-day promissory note was given. So you'd have to add the 120 days to the 19th August. The 19th August. And when you add, you are getting 139. So you would have to calculate 139 days from the August 19th. 139 days from the August 19th. So you can decide to count. So 139 days from the August 19th. And when you count or when you calculate 139 days from the August 19th, what you are getting is 17th December. December 17th. December 17th. So from the August 19th, 120 days from the when you add 120 days to the August 19th, you are getting 139. And the 139 days from the August 19th is what? 17th December. It's 17th December. So now this is our due date. 17th December is our due date. So now it says compute the due date and the maturity value of the promissory note. So we would have to go ahead to find our maturity value. And before you find your maturity value, you can't find your maturity value without your interest. Without your interest. So first of all, we would have to compute our interest. And you know, computing our interest is the I equals the P times R times T. And the P, which is the principal, is 75,000. Is 75,000 as stated clearly in the question. The rate was given to be 8%. 8%. 8%. And now was given to be 8%. And now it says in return, KPH gives the company a 120-day promissory note. So the days that was given, or the time frame was 120. The time frame was 120. So with this 120, the question also stated that 120-day promissory note at an ordinary simple interest rate. So it says ordinary simple interest rate. So you write your 120 here and you divide it by 360. 360 because we are dealing with ordinary. So now we would have to compute our interest and we are getting 2,000. We are getting 2,000 Ghana cedis for this. So now that we have our interest, we can go ahead to find our maturity value. And with the maturity value, you add your interest to your principal. So with the principal, we had 75,000. So we will have to add 2,000, which is the interest to it, and we are getting 77,000. We are getting 77,000 for the maturity value. So that is the first set, as is stated, for us to find, to compute the due date. And we did the due date nicely. And also we went ahead to find our maturity date. And we said without the interest, you can't go ahead to find our maturity date. So we first calculated for our interest, which we had 2,000. And therefore, we calculated for our maturity value by adding 2,000 to the principal, which was 75,000, and now we ended up at 77,000 Ghana cedis. So now we move on to the II. The II. How are we then going to solve the II? So now the II says Mamaga Kekeli investment company could not wait for the note to mature and decided to transfer the note to Lakayana Financial Services on October 5th at a discount of 12% of the maturity value. Determine the discount amount and the proceeds due to Mamaga Investment Company. How much does Lakayana Financial Services make from the transaction? So now we would have to, the question is asking us to determine the discount amount. So first of all, the discount amount. The discount amount follows a formula, and the formula is maturity value times the discount rate times discount period. Times discount period. Times discount period. And with the maturity value, we already calculated for it in the I, which we had 77,000. We had 77,000. And the question in the II said, Mamaga Kekeli Investment Company could not wait for the note to mature and decided to transfer the note to Lakayana Financial Services on October 5th at a discount of 12%. So the discount rate here is 12%, so 0.12, 0.12, 0.12. So now what we are left with is to compute our discount period. So now let's get our discount period before we go ahead to fixing the amount we have to fix in. Then we proceed. So now with the discount period, it says on October 5th at discount of 12%. So it was given, they couldn't wait for the note to mature and decided to transfer the note to Lakayana Financial Services on October 5th. On October 5th. On October 5th. On October 5th. So we have our October 5th here. And in the I, it made us compute our due date. And we had December 17th. We had December 17th. So October 5th and December 17th. And December 17th. So now let's do something here. October has how many days? 31 days. So you write your 31 days down. So with the 31 days, it takes October 5th, so 5 days of October. So you subtract 5, then you put it in brackets. Don't be in a rush to write the 26. So now October, you move to where? November. So now November has 30 days. November has 30 days. So you write plus 30 here. November has 30 days. You write plus 30 here. Then now with the due date we computed in I, we had what? 17th December. So you come and write your 17th here. So October, November, December. So November has 30 days, and with the December, the due date is 17th December. So now when you subtract the 5th October from the 31 days, you are getting 26. So when you add 26 to the 30, you are getting 56. You are getting 56. And when you add 17 to fix 56, you are getting 73. You are getting 73. You are getting 73. So now 73 here is going to be your discount period. 73 here is going to be your discount period. So now let's put in 73 here. So now 73 here. So the question also the question also demanded that or stated that um, we use ordinary simple interest. In the I, it stated that we use ordinary simple interest. So now, since we have our discount period, we divide it by 360 since we are using the ordinary simple interest. Since we are using the ordinary simple interest. And when we are to compute this, we are getting 1873.67. 1873.67. So now our discount amount, as we were asked to determine the discount amount in the II, is 1873.67. And the question also asked us to determine the proceeds due to Mamaga Investment Company. The proceeds due to Mamaga Investment Company. So now let's get the proceeds due. So with the proceeds, what we are going to do is that we are going to subtract the discount amount from the maturity value. We are going to subtract the discount amount from the maturity value, and the maturity value is 77,000, and the discount amount we just determined is 1873.67, and you are getting 75,126. 75,126.33. 0.33. So now this is the discount amount and also the proceeds we were asked to find in the II. So now we've computed our discount amount, we've computed our proceeds to Mamaga, and the final question was, how much does Lakayana Financial Services make from the transaction? How much does Lakayana Financial Services make from the transaction? So what they make or what they earn is 1,873. It's 1,873.67, and it's the same as the discount amount, So this is where we are earning. My name is Gyimah Addae. What we did today was simple interest and promissory note. The name again is Gyimah Addae, known as GAS. Thank you very much.